Hello and welcome to episode 207 of the Crate and Crowbar. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I'm joined by Tom Senior.
Hello.
And Tom Francis.
Hello.
By the time you listen to this, listener of this, Heat Signature will be out.
Yeah, that's a weird thought.
It is. It'll exist. Well, it already exists, obviously. Or else.
I hope so.
Yeah. But it will exist in a material capitalist sense, which is the only true existence.
Yep. And I will know how it worked out. Whether the last 3.5 years are going to pay off.
Are you truly going to know that within 24 hours of launch?
Yeah, I hope.
Okay.
I'll have a pretty good idea within like an hour after launching. Just a ballpark, because I have nothing at the moment. With Gunpoint, we did a pre-order week, so by the time it launched, I already had a sort of safety net of like, okay, it's going to do at least that well.
Is that because sales tend to trend rather coherently that you can extrapolate in that way?
I don't know. I've only had one game. Okay. Actually, no, I've had 2 games, but the other one was much smaller scale and also was given away free to a huge number of people, so it's very hard to know whether. I don't imagine that will behave it similarly.
Yeah, because I just don't know how random those patterns are. Like, what if there's like a freaky eclipse at 7 o'clock when the game comes out and everyone who wants it falls asleep?
I didn't fucking realize EGX was that day. So that many people are...
That's only going to slow down game journalists.
Yeah, which is a shame because...
they don't buy anything.
Some of them might retweet it.
Yeah, that's true.
Which would have been nice. If you're going to EGX, I know it'll be in the past.
If you're at EGX,
at EGX
right
with a
now,
time machine.
Alert.
If you're,
please retweet the signature launch.
If you're taking a break from the fun of EGX to listen to this podcast somehow, and you hear this, help Tom out. Unless
I don't need it by then, in which case don't worry.
Who knows? That's exciting. How are you feeling? I know you were pretty
good actually. Really feels like there's some buzz, which is nice. Got like 3,000 people on the beta at the moment, so people are playing it. And also it's gone out to games journalists, and some of them have said really nice things already. And yeah, there's lots of people hammering up my door every day saying, not my figurative door, not my literal door, saying, launch it now, give it to me, I want it, which is nice. And like, the nice thing actually is that I'm not getting a load of people saying like, oh cool, new thing from the Gunpoint people, I want to see that. They seem specifically excited about this. They're not excited about it just because because of they like the last thing, which is nice because it's quite different to the last thing. It's not necessarily, if you want a game exactly like Gunpoint, it's not quite that.
So what is your, journey to Thursday looking like at the moment?
It's just lots and lots of finishing things off and updating store pages, and I will probably sort of announce the Steam Friends features tomorrow, which will be yesterday when you listen to this, or the day before yesterday.
So what will you have announced yesterday tomorrow, Tom?
And yeah, make sure it's ready on both storefronts and stuff like that.
It's amazing to me that 4 years into the life of this podcast, we haven't figured out how to talk about things that are happening that might be in the future or the past, based on the fact that we record a podcast on a Tuesday and it goes up on a Friday.
We could have the guy from Twin Peaks say it in reverse.
I feel like we're adding problems here. Like we've added feature creep to this, issue.
But yeah, I can't remember if we mentioned this last week, but the podcast is about as old as Heat Signature.
Yeah.
So
that's yeah,
a weird thought.
That's
this podcast and my niece are about as old as Heat Signature.
Well, congratulations, all 3 of us.
It is her birthday soon, actually.
Well, yes. Speaking of birthdays, also, there's less news, but if you're listening to this on the Friday it comes out, we need to get better at this. If you listen to this today, Friday, the 22nd of September, then it is also Hackmud's first birthday. It's a weird coincidence, the game I'm working on. I have obviously been working on the game for its life, but Sean and I have planned a little event, so I thought I'd just mention that.
Nice.
There is, particularly if you followed the previous Hackmud event, then there is a big public puzzle to solve and some hot computer lore to uncover. I think I'm not telling this, but it's there. That's what I've been doing. So that's happening. But it's nice to be able to, tie a bow on a year of that game for them. So that's nice. It's
good. Indeed.
So is that all the news?
I think that might be all the news. I can't really think of very much. Actually, so another A game that I would like to play, I haven't played yet, but maybe is, newsworthy, is that Divinity 2 has come out and seems to be extremely well received, and has sold like 500,000 copies in a week, which is obviously very good for an RPG.
I've been following Janine Hawkins, who's writing about it for Polygon, I believe, and doing a sort of review in progress type thing. And she's been loving it, and she wrote some great tweets about she had a situation where it had rained blood all around her.
From a lacerated sky?
I don't know.
Okay. To be confirmed.
And an enemy was gonna electrified the blood, so that it would damage her people. And then she blessed the blood so that then it would heal her people instead. And that sounds awesome.
So do you know, weirdly, today, someone favved my review of Divinity Original Sin 1. I think they must have been Googling, when sort of a favved tweet shows up from years ago. Yeah. So I ended up clicking on it, purely because I'd completely forgotten what I'd written. And the first 3 words of my review are blood conducts electricity. Well, apparently that's the thing that makes you notice the systems in that game is, oh shit.
But she then tweeted that she's, with no spoilers, but she says she's reached a choice in it that if she was playing for fun, she would just stop playing for good. She's really pissed off that she has to make this choice and doesn't like it at all. Doesn't give any details beyond that, which is probably for the best, but that's both worrying and also just completely fascinating. What could it possibly be where just even the existence of the choice is
yeah, weird.
Awful.
I don't know why I stopped playing the first game, because I was really enjoying it, and then suddenly got bored of it.
Yeah, I know. I remember why I stopped, and it's because I reached a big town, and I was like,
That's exactly
I don't
what happened to
know.
me as well.
Yeah, this serious big town paralysis. That's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, it is a thing,
Yeah.
definitely in RPGs.
Yeah, I found that because, and I reviewed it, but I had that feeling of like when I'd gotten my head around big town and done all of the
Big town is a state of mind.
Yeah. Forget it, Jake. It's big. Once I'd gotten my head around Big Town, I was actually horrified to discover that's like Act 1 of the game, which is often, that is the Baldur's Gate mold, right? Of like little town, big town,
Cardboard
box.
That's the smallest town of all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, big town, little town, pocket dimension. And, which is basically the structure of Divinity as well, actually thinking about it. But it is almost like a kind of weird vertigo, right? With like just, there's too much to do. Therefore, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
I powered through in the case of the original eventually, but yeah, there was definitely a moment of like, shit.
I think, I never had the problem with Elder Scrolls games, but I do remember in Morrowind, that worked really nicely because it had a good town size progression. You start in the tiniest fishing village, and then you get sent to a sort of medium town, Balmora, and it's much bigger and there's more shops, and it feels like a sort of the big time to you at that point. But in the grand scheme of things, it's fairly small. And then it's quite a long way in before you're ever sent to Vivec, which is the capital. And the first time you go there, you're like, oh my god, look at this place. It just seems huge and daunting. But I think when I was first there, I had a specific quest to do, and I was just there to do that, and no one was asking me to sort of explore this town and discover everything that it had. And so that worked really well for me. It was kind of, it had the feel of an intimidating big place, but I didn't actually feel intimidated and daunted. I was just, you dip into it and then you come back when you want to.
Unless you jump a million miles in the sky at the beginning of Morrowind and pick a direction and land in Vivec.
Yeah,
perfectly possible.
You could, I wonder, okay, so there's also a walking on water spell. If you use the massive agility spell to jump incredibly high, and you have the walking on water spell and you land on water, do you break your legs?
I guess.
I think you probably would.
Let's not do that then. Yeah, no, exactly what you mean. It's interesting because Big Town Paralysis is definitely an RPG problem, right? I'm curious to think of how games get around it, because like Tides of Numenera is Big Town right at the start. Baldur's Gate 2 is dungeon followed by Big Town. Pillars of Eternity is like goes quite a way before it really hits you with Big Town.
Yeah.
Trying to think, I'm basically trying to break RPGs down by like time to Big Town.
Well, Final Fantasy VII starts you in the biggest town on the map, and then you fight out of it, and then you come back to it later and see how it's changed. It's a really satisfying arc.
Maybe that's how they should do it. Maybe your opening your adventure should always be breaking out of Big Town. And then you return to Big Town when you can handle it emotionally.
Horizon sends you to the big town pretty quick. Well, no, there's a long story intro, but then once you're out in the open world, I think the first thing you're told to do is go to big town.
I've been playing that game for like 12 hours. I still haven't gone to Big Town, but I think that might be because I'm really distracted.
I did it of my own accord. I was like, I'm not going to follow the quest. I'm going to set across the whole world and just do my own journey. I'm going to go to this place. And I picked a random spot and then journeyed there. And it was an amazing journey. And I had to get past this gate and do a quest to open that gate. And then I got there and it's like, well done. Your next leg of your quest complete. I'm like, oh, what? I was supposed to do exactly this.
That's actually their amazing design or a beautiful accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that was the choice that meant that they can no longer continue with Divinity Original Sin 2, which is hard to say, was, do you want Big Town or Bigger Town? And it's like, well...
They could have called it, like, Unoriginal Sin, or Derivative Sin.
Well, like, if you're going for the one of the original 7, that's like a little bit...
It's a bit of a cliche
done.
now.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about it. I'm excited for the GM tools as well, getting more into tabletop role-playing. I like the idea of having that sort of stuff sufficiently well realised within a digital computer video game. That's exciting.
Consistent physics systems. Lightning conduction.
Yeah.
Which I've also been enjoying in Zelda, but we can't talk about that.
Yeah, it's forbidden. We've been planning to talk about it for ages, but two things keep happening. One is that I continue being slow finishing it, but also new people keep buying it. So I kind of want to talk about Zelda when everyone's finished it now.
Yeah, well,
this is also known as the Bloodborne phenomenon.
We'll do a playthrough of it, video playthrough
in 2 years
time.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to Divinity, but it sort of ended up in the XCOM War of the Chosen box for me of things that I will play when the current crunch subsides. So, but yeah, it's nice to see that it's doing well and it's been quite so well received. I saw people on Twitter calling it the greatest turn-based RPG ever made. Which is...
Yeah, I've seen a few reviews say things to that effect.
Gosh.
Sounds like a newsworthy thing we're in no position to cover.
You can play as a lizard skeleton, which I'm very excited about.
Right.
Like, you can be an undead version of any of the races, and they all have different skeletons.
That's a great... Why has no one gotten that right before?
Idea.
Like, why are the undead always human undead?
Why can't I be a giant cow?
Well, I mean, that's a different question, Tom. Oh, dead cow.
A dead cow, yeah.
Okay.
Just the bones of a cow.
Not animated or magical or anything.
Just sliding around the environment. Yeah.
The inert bones of a cow.
Firing fireballs out of its eyes.
That is pretty animated.
Yeah. Well. So
that is actually, no, you have you played West of Loathing?
No.
Because you've literally just described almost exactly one of the enemies of West of Loathing, which is a floating cow skull that shoots fire.
Wow.
It's remarkable that you got that close.
Why would a cow shoot fire?
It came out of your brain and apparently asymmetric brains at the same time.
I believe the Forbidden Game Zelda has skeleton versions of a lot of their enemies.
It does, yes,
Yeah,
it has,
it does.
yeah. It has.
You can play as them though.
You can bash bits off the skeletons and then bash the rest of the skeletons with those bits.
You bash the head off them and the head desperately finds a body, and it doesn't matter what body the head finds. And if you knock everyone's head off in Zelda, sorry, we're going to get off Zelda in a minute.
It's fine.
But it's amazing. So you can set all the heads just looking for bodies, and all the bodies are looking for heads, and they're interchangeable, so they don't have to pick up the same head. They can just pick up a different head and put it on and then start fighting you again. It's amazing.
It's great. It's so full of stuff like that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that game.
It's one of the reasons. Yeah, it was nice watching, because I think you were the most recent person to start playing it.
Yeah, I think
Tom
so.
S. And watching you have that realization of like, go from, this seems like a nicely well-made adventure game to, oh shit.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. I could say so much about that game. And we will eventually.
Yeah, we will eventually. We just do it now. No. But no, it turns out Breath of the Wild is probably secretly one of the best design games.
One of the best open worlds I've ever explored. Literally, the thing that they always said, go in a direction, have an adventure. Like, unfadingly, Zelda delivers something surprising and cool pretty much wherever you go. It's amazing.
Yeah, bizarre mix of open feeling and crafted feeling, where it turns out the key to making a good open world game is to make every single thing amazing everywhere.
Yep.
Like, don't rely. Yeah, and I don't know how you don't, yeah. It's like, it's gotta suck if you're any other, developer, right? Going like, oh, that was what we were missing.
Apart from the forest, which is, like the bullshit section of the game where all the bullshit in the game is in one place.
Yeah, there's also a very bullshit stealth bit.
Okay.
So
is that the Misty Forest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's bullshit getting into it, and then all the quests inside it are bullshit. It's like they put all the bullshit into one part of the game, so, you know.
That's good. Actually, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You gotta imagine there's a lot of like Assassin's Creed developers just going, oh, thank God. Like,
there you go.
Yeah. You know, every game has its Misty Forest. It's just how big it is. Yeah, there's also a insta-fail stealth section that is also, like, it's probably bollocks. Like, you can't subvert it as much as the rest of that game and lets you subvert things, which is a shame. I don't know why we're talking about Zelda now. I am talking about Zelda. I mean, the connection to Divinity Original Sin is that they're both games that fundamentally have a physics system underneath them. Like, they're kind of RPGs, but they're also fundamentally like physics games.
Kind of sandboxy, very consistent rules that operate in all combat and exploration.
Which basically boils down to things conduct electricity.
Yeah.
To bring it back to Divinity Original Sin.
That should be in more things. I was about to start another Zelda anecdote, but I won't go.
No, go for it. Seriously, Tom, tell the Zelda story.
So lightning storms are fucking amazing in Zelda because anything metal in the world attracts lightning. And if you've got a bow or a sword out and it's made of metal, then there's a chance you'll get hit by lightning. So you have to unequip all of your metal shit and just pull out like a wooden sword and a wooden bow and make sure that you're not wearing anything too conductive. So in my panic once, I dropped my metal sword as I was running away from some bad guys, and they ran across the sword, and the sword, just lying on the landscape, got zapped by an enormous bolt of lightning because the systems are just consistent across the board. It doesn't matter whether the enemies drop it or you drop it, and it just set fire to like 3 of them. And the fire is also a thing in that game. Like the rain puts it out, but you know, if you shoot arrows across it, they will catch fire. If any enemies are holding wooden objects, they will catch fire as well. So it's just like the kind of stuff that happens in it is just insane, like domino effects of, physics systems interacting with one another in these chaotic environments. It's incredible. It's
just full of that. Like the time I realized that you can throw loads of chili peppers on a fire. When chili peppers burn, they create an updraft because they burn really hot. Yes. And so you can leap over that with your hang glider and get thrown up in the air like really, really high because of the up current of hot air.
Yeah.
It's just,
you go into the desert and then any food that you just put on the floor cooks itself because it's so hot. This is just amazing. So stuff.
Yeah, because the temperature system's consistent as well.
Yeah, across the entire game. Yeah.
Like, to bring this back to PC game, we haven't played Divinity Original Sin 2. The key, I think, to the sort of the appeal of both of those games is they achieve things that previously you kind of need pen and paper role playing to do. Like the good thing about pen and paper role playing is when you, as the GM or as a player, you can say to the GM, like, I want to do this, and it makes sense logically to me that I should be able to do this. Like, I'm going to throw my hammer at the winch over there and try and bash the hobgoblin off the pulley into the thing, and that's going to do the whatever, and you roll some dice to determine whether or not that happens or to what extent that happens. But because it's in your imagination, you can apply all that real world logic, and it can surprise you, and you can surprise each other. Whereas in a game, you kind of have this implicit understanding that like fire is a particle effect, it is not fire, or things don't really have weight except when they're assigned to interact in particular ways, and running into something is just going to make your character stop rather than barrel through it and that kind of thing. So when those systems actually do function in a way that's beyond simply like numbers on a fixed set of interactions, like Divinity's mad set of things that can conduct electricity or can catch fire or can be put out or can freeze and all the rest of it. It feels like you're actually there in a way that RPGs don't always achieve.
Yeah, it reminds me of the novelty that I got seeing physics systems work for the first time. Like, Half-Life seesaw puzzles and throwing a can at a Combine soldier is like, oh my god, this is insane. The consistency and it all behaves how I think it should. And games like Divinity and Zelda just turn that up, take that up to another level with like a series of interacting elemental systems that are completely consistent throughout the open world. Which is insane, especially when you can start considering like edge cases they have to avoid with that stuff, especially because they give you a series of powers at the start of the game that are totally consistent and usable in the open world for the rest for the entire thing.
Yeah, like magnets and
the ability to just grow platforms out of water. And it's like, imagine the edge cases that causes in an open world full of water. Like, how do you stop the player from going, where they shouldn't and stuff like that? And Zelda's just so seamlessly designed. It's just, you can't break it seems.
That's what I mean when I say that, like, the thing that's so extraordinary about it is like, oh yeah, you can give the player shitloads of freedom and have all these crazy systems. You just have to design the rest of the game perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to make no mistakes after that.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from the Misty Forest.
Apart from that place, which is,
and the stealth bit. But yeah, we should talk about, a different, systems driven personal computer game that Tom, I know you and I have been playing, which is Dishonored. Death of the Outsider, or amusingly, Doto.
I saw someone called D-Doto to get the Dishonored.
I love Didoto. That's my take on this. So to clarify what we're going to do, because we don't want to spoil it for people, and also little details of Death of the Outsider are minor spoilers for Dishonored 2. Obviously that game's been out for a while, but still. So we're not going to talk about plot stuff, specifics at least. We will talk about abilities and design things, I think. Maybe we'll save plot stuff for maybe doing a little bit more of an in-depth dive, but I would like to talk about how they've built a new little Dishonored. Because that's what it feels like to me. Like, you know, you're a different character, you have a new set of powers, completely new set of powers. So it's not just sort of more levels. It does feel like a new mini Dishonored. Yeah,
it's very stripped down. Because I think they didn't want to do a whole sort of power progression arc. And so, at some point you get given powers, and when you get given powers, you just get given 3 powers, and that's it. Those are the only 3 powers you ever get. And you get them all at once, and you can't upgrade them, but you can find bone charms that, modify them. So they've lent heavily on the bone charm system and expanded it a bit, or maybe it's not expanded, just it applies to your new abilities in pretty fundamental ways. So
fills in the runes basically.
Yeah, you get bone charms that do the kind of things to your powers that runes used to in the main Dishonored game. And do you have bone charm crafting?
Yes.
You do?
Oh, no. No, sorry, it's on the menu. That's what I meant.
Yeah, so
I've got lots of raw whalebone.
It's got to be possible because they've customized this, you know, interface to suit what features they do have. You know, there's no level up slots or anything because you don't get those, and you don't find runes because you can't use them. But I keep finding whalebone for bone charm crafting, and I completed it now, and I never got the opportunity to get bone charm crafting. So I don't know if that's something I missed.
Maybe.
But yeah, the new powers are her version of Blink is displacement, which you sort of place a marker much the same way that you would blink normally, except when you release, it just places the marker and doesn't take you there yet. And then you can decide when to blink there. And then there's Foresight, which lets you leave your body and kind of move around while time is paused, just to look at things and tag them. I'm a huge fan of tagging in all games, so I'm very happy with this. And actually, I got a bone charm that upgraded that so that when I tag people, their visibility gets worse, which I really like, because I've used loads of tagging systems in the game, but I've never had it actually affect the person you tag, which is something you can only really do with supernatural abilities. And while you are looking through that vision thing, you can also place a displace marker, which lets you get to some places you couldn't otherwise get to.
Yeah.
In an obtuse sort of way. I didn't know that for the first 2 levels, and on level 3, I think, there was an objective that I needed a key for, and I just couldn't find the key anywhere, and it was the only thing left to do on the whole level. I'd done everything else. I've been playing in this one level for like 3 hours, and so I thought, fuck it, it's either give up or look it up. And so I looked it up and still didn't find any mention of where the key is, but someone pointed out how to use that ability to get in there. And I had no idea you could do that at all.
Yeah. Because, to clarify the difference between Blink is displace, so in Dishonored, there's like a logic, which I think most people will be familiar with, of like where you can and can't cast spells. So like you can cast anywhere you can kind of clearly, anywhere you could get to physically from where you're standing, you can cast a spell. But if there's like a grill or a grating, even if you can see through it, you can't cast a spell through it. You can't blink through a window, for example, like a closed window. Well, you can in Dishonored too, but you can't, you know, if you can see the place, you have to be able to move there in order to blink there. Through kind of clear air. Placing the displace marker works the same way, but teleporting to the displace marker doesn't. So if you use the sort of astral vision, like spirit foresight thing to go around a corner and plant your marker there, and then you can see that marker through a window or through a grill, you can then teleport straight through that location. So it kind of adds a degree of kind of exploratory complexity to like setting up your blinks, which works really nicely. It's
a strange system because like I said, I didn't know you could do that with Foresight for a long time, but I saw multiple tips. It kept telling me about how that grill thing works. What you're just saying, which is that you can't cast place a displace marker through a grill, but you can teleport through it once one is there. And I'm like, why do you keep telling me this? I don't care. Like, that seems such an edge case. I'd have to walk around the grill, place it, then go back to where I was, and then teleport through it. And yeah, you can use Foresight for that, which makes it a lot more relevant. But it's still very up in the air as to whether you can use Foresight to get through the grill. Like, lots you just can't. If it's like a mesh thing, you can't get through their Foresight, but you can get through gaps that are too small for you. So it's like Foresight turns you into, I almost think of it as like a flying rat, because you can go through the rat tunnels.
Or a bat.
Yeah, I guess that's what they are. And so, yeah, that's a weird distinction that was never made clear to me. You know, I always sort of want to break things down into absolute rules. Like, if you can see it, you can do this, or no, you need to be able to physically get your body through there. And this is neither. It's somewhere in between. You need to get something physical through there, but it's not you. It's something ethereal.
And you can only move your ethereal form in like a radius around where you actually are.
Yeah.
But there's some neat things you can do with that. Like, I'm playing on very hard, so the different, like,
I played on easy.
Well, I genuinely do recommend playing Dishonored on very hard, because it activates things about the AI that aren't always on, which makes
that's why I play on easy. I want all that stuff turned off.
Right. But like, I don't know if they do this on all difficult levels, but AI like notice doors being open. That kind of thing.
They do on easy.
Okay. Well, like, I think it mostly changes things like how long it'll search for you and how long they'll stay disturbed.
Yeah, they don't do much about it on easy. They're like, oh, the door's open.
So one thing that's kind of nice is you can obviously use opening doors to manipulate the guards a little bit, but also with the Foresight thing, because the moment you cast Foresight, it completely freezes time. If you say you want to get into a room that is got a guard patrolling like to and from it, and there's like a doorway between those two things, if you use Foresight, the moment the guard opens the door to leave, you can run your spirit form through the open door momentarily, place your teleport in there, and then, you know, if you can see it through a grill or a window or something like that, and then the guard will go through, shut the door behind them, and you can do that teleport, provided you can see without any kind of, without ever having to interact with the door yourself. It kind of opens these, like, all of Dishonored's tools do this, like, where they open certain doors and close others, but like not the figurative doors we were talking about earlier. And I really like that. I get that kind of brain tickle thing whenever I start to unpick this stuff and kind of figure out how it fits together.
Yeah. A trick I like doing with the Foresight Displace combination was, if there's a gap that's too long to jump, in Dishonored, you can also potentially cross that gap by jumping and then in midair blinking to the place once it is in range. And it's a tricky thing to pull off. If you have the time is paused while you're blinking thing, it's trivial. But with Displace, you can use Foresight to go out there, place the marker on there, then go back to yourself, run and jump, and then as soon as you are in range, you just have to press the button. Doesn't matter where you're aiming, it will just snap to the marker. So it's easy to do, and that feels really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
We should talk about Semblance, though.
We should talk about Semblance. So Semblance is the third power you get. There is a fourth power, but we'll talk about that as well. The fourth power is more of an environmental thing.
The rat thing?
Yeah. So Semblance allows you to pull the face off anybody. This is non-lethal, but permanent.
It's a horrible combination.
It's one of those, it's a bit like the Mesmerize power from Dishonored 2, where it's implied that what you see is not what everyone else sees. So Mesmerize, you create this like void obelisk. Emily can do this, that anyone stares at fascinated, but what they see is not necessarily what you're seeing. Like, they're seeing something, but you don't know what it is. Semblance, you can either do it as a takedown, like as a non-lethal takedown, or you can do it on an unconscious body, or maybe a dead body as well.
No, you can't do it on dead people.
Okay, so you have to do it on someone who's live. And you pull their face off and hold like a kind of void stone facsimile of their face in your outstretched hand. And when you move, you drain some of your mana.
If you've seen the movie Face Off, it's a lot like that.
Yeah. You take the face off. And once you've done that, you can walk around with the face. And that basically any NPC then sees you as that person.
And it does a couple of cool things. One is that it only drains mana when you're moving, and it drains it at a rate proportional to how fast you move. So if you just want to stand there as somebody, you can just do that indefinitely. It never runs out. And so when you do move, it becomes a really careful and calculated thing of, okay, I'm going to take 3 steps towards that door, and then I'm going to wait and see what that guy does. And I really liked not having time pressure on that. That was really nice.
Yeah. And also, I mean, that plays into the way that they've changed the resource system in a way that I like. So,
yeah.
So, using Remedy or vials to top up mana is completely gone. So you now have like, a replenishing mana pool that as is the system whereby like a little bit of your mana regenerates if you don't cast a spell fast enough, but the rest of it doesn't. So if you chain cast spells, you have to replenish that with consumables. That's completely gone. It all regenerates now after a certain period of time, and how much mana something costs is sort of broken down into quite clear chunks on the mana bar.
Yeah.
Which again, it feels like a simplification of the game system, so you don't hoard things, but it's really nice knowing that whole element of the game is just not there. So even though you have a smaller pool of powers, it is a toy box for just using those powers and not stressing about like how much mana, how much like liquid and solid mana do I have available to me in this mission? Because that's going to affect. Well, because I remember when I was doing the No Trace playthroughs for PC Gamer, that was a huge deal because I used possession loads and it costs so much mana it uses mana that's like you don't get back. So what I could do in every given level was mitigated by how much I had acquired over time in terms of being able to replenish myself. But obviously things like Semblance, where it drains your mana when you move, would be broken if you could be continually topping up your mana and you could just stay as that person forever. Because one thing that's nice about it is, so the possession power in Dishonored always gives you very limited control over somebody. Like you can walk around and press use on things, but you don't get to do anything. Whereas with Semblance, you can do everything you can normally do, apart from cast other spells. So you can get into sword fights, you can stab people, you can choke people out. You do lose Semblance if you're seen doing those things, but it still means you can steal stuff and conduct assassinations as somebody else if that's how you want to achieve the goal.
Yeah, actually, I got a bone charm that made it so that killing someone while disguised would replenish some of my void energy, like about a third of the bar, which is a lot. And that was really interesting because, like I say, you can't semblance onto a dead person. So if you get anyone alone, you can trivially kill them and it will recharge your bar. But if that spell does get broken because you get caught, or you just misjudge your moves and you run out of juice and you can't get to another target, now you don't have any bodies around to imitate because you killed them all. So I found it like a sort of interesting resource game of like, I'll usually kill people, but every now and then if I've got enough mana to be getting on with, I'll just choke this guy so that I can come back to him later and take his face. You also can't take the same person's face twice. So
because it's not lethal but permanent.
It's gone.
What happens to the person?
It's just kind of
replaced
black.
with like a kind of black mask.
Oh no.
Like it's the thing, like the thing that you've got in your hand is their actual face, but the thing it looks like it's in your hand is actually their face. Like it's weird. Like it's Dishonored magic stuff, but it's a great animation as well. Like you kind of just like hoover their face off with your hand.
That's right.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think I had the best time in the opera singer's house.
Yeah, I was about to mention,
which was just had really good like guard patrols that made things tricky but not impossible. And that really felt a lot like a Hitman mission.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like so far my purest moment of like Dishonored things was in that level, because that level also has in a direct or indirect flashback to the best of the old Dishonored DLC missions. It's a stately house with a dumbwaiter, and all good stealth missions have a dumbwaiter in them. I can't back that up at all because that's not true. But they should have all your raiding a manor missions should have a dumbwaiter in them because they are great. So I used that in that mission I stashed the unconscious body of someone important in a dumbwaiter. Well, what I did is the first time I threw their unconscious body into a dumbwaiter, and the only thing being transported in the dumbwaiter was some eels and a bottle of whiskey. And because there was a bottle of whiskey in the dumbwaiter, their flying corpse caught fire because there was whiskey.
Because of physics.
Yeah, because of physics. And they died. So I reloaded a save and then gingerly removed the whiskey and then put their unconscious body in the dumbwaiter and then rode the dumbwaiter with their unconscious body in it down a floor and then pulled their face off it while hiding in a pantry so that I could infiltrate a very, very secure part of the building, do something as a more important person in the mission, then return, and then still in disguise, go back upstairs, call the lift up, stash the body somewhere else, and then ride the dumbwaiter down to freedom, which is just like proper, like, you know, when you're doing stealth, when you're doing ghost playthroughs, it's such a good, like, yeah, this was a story.
I rode that dumbwaiter to a floor and snuck out. I I think I actually, it was in an empty room, but I wanted to thin out the guards, and I unplugged a whale oil canister, which caused a guard to come and investigate, and I choked him out, and so it had been a little while since I left the dumbwaiter, and I picked up his body, and I was going to take the dumbwaiter to like a different floor and dispose of it there, and I walked into the dumbwaiter, and me and the body just fell down, because a servant on the lower floor had brought the dumbwaiter down to actually use it. So me and a corpse just fell down to it. Like, none of this did happen, but in my head, like, I'm screaming, he's screaming. Yeah. Drop the body.
Who's a dumbwaiter now? He shouts at you from the catering. I don't know where he's going. But yeah, so that's really, I really like that stuff. It's got like, it is pocket Dishonored because it's obviously there's less to it than the main series games, but
it fulfills the ultimate Dishonored fantasy, which is while dressed as a guard, you can walk up to a guard and talk to them, and they'll say, "Shall we gather for whiskey and cigars?"
Yeah, because you can talk to people while they think you are someone else. The only weakness of Semblance, or the only weakness in the systems that it exposed for me, is you can't carry unconscious bodies through level transitions.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Semblance, and I think maybe this is the only oversight in its design, is it turns unconscious people into a handy resource.
Yeah.
Like, if you can break into somewhere with an unconscious guard over your shoulder, just as just in case you need a backup face, then that is actually a big help. So, I was trying to carry a character who has a very specific relationship with a character that I was infiltrating into their house so I could be them, and it just doesn't let you do that. You end up leaving their unconscious corpse behind on the other side of whatever the level transition door is.
Yeah.
Which I understand from a technical point of view, but it is like, if you've implemented a system that turns sleepy people into a useful face resource, then players are going to try and do things like that.
Yeah, I had a couple of problems with it because it actively encourages you to think that way. There's even a tip that says, "Oh, disguising yourself as specific people unlocks loads of options." And I tried it 3 times, and 2 times it failed me. One actually wasn't disguising as a particular person, but it was just, you have a quest objective to get past a certain door in a certain way. And I thought, I don't need to do that because I can be anyone, so I'll just be this guy. And I was that guy, and it worked, and that was great. It was actually. So this is just like, you have to be a member of a gang, and there's a way to look like a member of a gang that the quest points you to. But I was like, I'll just find a member of the gang and I'll just be that person. And I was going against the objective. It doesn't even offer that as like an alternative objective. But I was like, this is going to work, or my name's not Johnny Dishonored. But it turned out to be a huge pain to get this person across town. Again, like, transporting bodies becomes a big thing. I could disguise as her right where I took her out, but then I would have run out of mana by the time I got to the place I needed to get into. So I needed to carry her, and it became a huge quest to get the body across the level, and I didn't know for sure it would work. But like I say, it just felt like so much like, this is what it's for, surely. If it doesn't work for this, it's bullshit. And it did work, which is great. But then there's one where 2 people are going to meet, and it's a bit of a niche one because so the game now has a contracts system, which is basically a whole list of side quests to do in the same space as your main mission, all optional but with individual rewards. And they are quite Hitman-ish. They're kind of, well, I think like at least 2 of them are just assassinations. And lots are kind of like, do this without being seen, or bring this person to this location. And one of these was follow this person to see who they meet. And I was so focused on getting this gang member across town, I could see that happening in the background. I could see like a important character to this other side quest was walking past me, and I should probably follow her, but I just thought, I've got to do this this gang thing. And by the time I got back to it, she had already met up with her contact, and they're just in a really public place, and my objective is to kill them both. And it's just like, I don't see any good way of doing this. And I did find it a decent way of doing it in the end. I had a plan to cause a disturbance elsewhere in town so that everyone would run off. And then while they're away, they were sitting on a bench. While they're away, I'd plant spring razors on the bench so that when they came back, they would be shredded. And I was just planning what disturbance I would do. And suddenly everyone just got up and ran. And I have no idea what happened, but they must have found like a body from some earlier crime of mine. But the distraction just happened automatically, and I did it, and I put the spring razors there. One of them went back and got killed that way, and the other one I just tracked down. But I thought this wasn't really the way to do it. There's probably a semblance way to do it, right? If I took out the woman before she met up with a contact and then I became her when I met up with contact, I could pretend to be her. And I did that and just nothing happens. And it's, half of it makes sense because if I took her out before she met with a contact, I would have no way of knowing that is her contact. That's one of the things you're trying to find out. So it made sense that I couldn't say anything to them, but it didn't make sense to me that they wouldn't say anything to me. If we're designated to meet here, they should react in some way. And then the other time was like, this is one where there's something you can do with these, there's 2 named characters on a level, who are going to have a meeting. And I've heard you can be one of them at that meeting. And I don't know, that's advantageous in some way, but I took one of them out. It's like the leader, it's 2 factions and then it's the leader of each faction. And so I took out the leader of, there's one faction and, quietly with no one finding out, and then, became her and walked up to one of her people, hoping to be able to, at the very least get deferential respect. And, ideally what I really want to do is like boss them around. I was hoping like if you talk to them, you would
sort of say the hitman thing. If you become the officer, you can dismiss all the guards.
I kept wanting that to work and it didn't. But worse, I just walked up to the first person, and the first thing they said to me was, I'll just call her boss lady. I can't remember her name. The first thing this guard says was, "Oh, if you have any trouble, go and see boss lady." And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, that's who I am. You just immediately said something that makes no sense to the situation. And I wouldn't, if this was like an edge case that I'd gone off on my own little whim to explore, I would be more forgiving of it, but they basically told me to do this. It was like be specific people and go around and talk to people. And I did that and it just failed.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like you're right that a lot of these levels feel like Hitman. I think there's a consequence of it basically having a disguise system now, mitigated in a different way. Like, Hitman is about finding the right series of keys and clothes so you can pretend to be whoever. This is a little bit more, abstract, I guess, and it's mitigated in a different way. It's not mitigated by certain people going to go to certain places. It's mitigated by manner and movement and things like that. But I think it's a really good idea. But maybe it's like it opens like a big can of worms in terms of how reactive you want to be to the player.
I'm not surprised they didn't manage to pull it off flawlessly because it's an incredibly difficult thing to do.
But I think on balance, I would rather it be in the game, even in a partial form, rather than abandon the system. It's too complicated to account for every possible way in which it can be used.
So the first, there's basically one mission without your powers. Then the next 2 missions I really, really liked, including a bank job, which is awesome. And then there's one level that is effectively recycled from Dishonored. It's the same place you've been in Dishonored, and they've changed it both visually and structurally. But the visual change to me just made it not pretty, whereas before it was stunningly pretty. And the structural changes, I guess it was different, but it didn't sort of make it interesting to me. It still felt like going back to a level I've already played. And then
because it's weird because they did that in Knife of Dunwall as well. Like if this echoes the original Dishonored DLC, like the last level of Knife of Dunwall is a repeated level from Dishonored 1.
Yeah, I did play Knife of Dunwall. I don't remember it that well.
Because the last level is Dowd's Hideout, which makes sense because you go there in Dishonored, the first.
And then the final level feels to me very much like a level and not a place. It's get from A to B type thing. And you're just trying to reach something. And I really didn't like it. And I also didn't like the end at all. I won't talk about anything that could be spoilery. But I actually went back and played it a different way because the first way was just so disappointing. It was just nothing. And then when I went back and played it the other way, there's a huge amount of more content to it, but I still didn't really like the way it played out or playing it.
I guess that's something for more of a spoiler pod. Did you want to mention the 4th power? Because you can talk to rats now. Rats speak.
Oh, yeah. I saw them saying it on Twitter.
Yeah. They're adorable.
I can't hear a word they're saying. I had to turn on subtitles because it's doing like a reverse echo, but there's also 2 voices talking at once, and then my brain just shuts down. It's like, what?
They just natter and say little poems about stuff. It replaces the heart, really. So the pointing the heart at things and getting those little stories, there's always it's the same. It's the Dishonored tone stuff, which to be reductive is basically like pointing a heart at someone and it says, she's going to fall off a bridge later. This is a lot like that, although it's an adorable little mouse voice going like, she's going to talk about a ridge later, which is actually brilliant. It's good. I like it. Also because it's sort of, it's the first power you get, you have it in every level. And it's just sort of implied that who you are, Billy Lurk, just being able to talk to rats the entire time. It's a very Dishonored thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have any new weapons or anything? Or gadgets?
Yeah,
yes,
the hook mine. The hook mine is a mine that, when it's triggered, just sucks the person to it like a ragdoll. And you can choose whether it kills them or not. But either way, it's hilarious. And I just, do you remember those towers? They used to be missile towers, but in this, they're mostly dormant. They have these overhanging ledges. I threw a hook mine on one of those, and I think I'd said it's non-lethal, but the guard walked past, just flung him into space, basically. He just went pinwheeling through the sky. Well, he's dead.
They are the most lethal looking non-lethal thing, because they basically pull people by whichever of their limbs is physically closest to the mine at the point of activation. So people get stuck up to them by their hands, by their feet, by their backs, and because when it's a non-lethal mode, they just stick to it and then go to sleep. And the implication is that they've been sucked through space with such force that they've just passed out immediately. And obviously unconsciousness in Dishonored is a bit of a fuzzy concept anyway, because you just choke people for a little bit and they go to sleep for ages. It's a game state as much as a physical thing that's happened to these people. But it without giving too much away, there was a reason in an early mission in Death of the Outsider that I wanted to completely non-lethally clear a building. It didn't matter if I got seen, but it basically involved me creating a safe sort of lair for myself, and then setting up these things like fucking Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, just on top of above doorways and round corners and things, and then getting half of the people in the level to chase me and just running around corners as they get pulled into walls and go to sleep, and then going back looting them all, reaching up to kind of rifle through their pockets and things, and they're all just asleep stuck to the walls. But it is nice to have that's one thing I would say for this is all of the new powers are there to assist creative stealth stuff. None of them are lethal by nature. Actually, no. You can telefrag people with displace in a way that you couldn't with. And
it really hurts.
Yeah, it hurts you as well. But it really hurts them. But it's not you get a new tentacle murder power like Emily does in Dishonored 2. And most of the new feeling gadgets are the non-lethal stuff. So you have a decent stun bolt now, which is a kind of electric shot that actually puts people down non-lethally.
I used that mostly on dogs because I didn't want to kill the dogs, and also because dogs can smell you when you're in semblance. They know it's not really who you're pretending to be.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've got a bone charm means dogs can't smell me.
Yeah, I got that
because that bone charm stinks.
Just a really doggy bone charm.
Yeah. And I have dogs don't count towards non-lethal at all.
To be towards lethal,
as in non-lethal. If you kill dogs, it doesn't count.
Right.
Towards your non-lethal playthrough.
I just didn't want to kill the dogs.
I had a mission to kill a dog.
Yeah, that's actually the only contract I didn't do. I just thought
you did the contract to kill people.
Yeah. There's a contract to kill everyone, on a level, murder every single person. I did that.
The contracts are quite cool actually, because it was a simple thing, but it's nice, because I'm doing a non-lethal playthrough with the exception of dogs, which is a weird thing for me to say, but I'm
doing the opposite. We're doing the opposite playthroughs.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what the speed run verbiage for that is. Any percent all dogs. Any percent no dogs or people. And I'm doing non-lethal just because the character you are, Billy Lurk, lectures Dowd in Knife of Dunwall about being too lethal, so it seems weird to me that she would get her own DLC and then just fucking kill everybody. And I'm now, because of the contracts that I'm not doing, because they involve killing people, I'm looking forward to going back and doing the lethal run, because it feels like that just unlocks more stuff to do, and the fact that they are mini challenges means that it's,
I tell a lie that the contract to kill everybody, I did not complete it in the end because I don't know why. I couldn't find, evidently there's someone I didn't kill, but it gives you no tally of how many people you've killed, and it's a huge fucking building, and I went through it multiple times, making sure every corpse really was dead.
Terrifying.
I would try and hack off one of their limbs so I can see at a distance. Yeah, that one's definitely dead. But it's still not enough. So I just killed everyone for no reason. I didn't get any reward for it.
Damn.
Also, yeah, I had that, like I say, the power that recharges your energy for killing someone while you're in semblance. And that's
not an excuse, Tom.
A fun mechanic. No, it was a tool. So that fitted well with that playstyle.
I quite like that idea that, like, to maintain your disguise, you're just, like, stealth chain assassinating everybody in the building.
Yeah, it is pretty horrific, because everyone likes you. Everyone's really friendly to you. And then you just murder them with brutal kill animations.
Yeah, they've done I was wondering if this is a deliberate stylistic thing, but they've definitely turned up, I feel like, over the course of Dishonored as a series, how bad it is to kill people, because it's quite nasty. Like, the takedown animation is very detailed, but also, like, the way people, like, shout when people die is not, like, it's not naturalistic because it's a stylized world, but it's not like, you know, traditional guard shouting. There's like a lot of like shock and horror in their voices. Like the same is true of Dishonored 2 generally, but like they sound genuinely mortified that you've just killed someone they know. Like you were in the wrong for murdering somebody out of nowhere in a guarded house. There's a lot of guards. There's a lot of guards who are just bored, and because, you know, by the time of this story, no spoilers, but it's not set in a world that's particularly dystopian anymore. You're not in a oppressed society where all the guards are corrupt. I mean, and actually Dishonored always established that most of the guards that you're encountering are not the problem. They're just people who work for the government, and there's always maybe one person at the top who actually deserves to be knifed, but most people don't. And it's always played with that to an extent. But now it really feels like if you go on a murder spree, you're now the villain of Dishonored.
I had a great moment where a guard was saying one of those lines, like they found a body and they were saying, "When I find this murderer, I'm gonna..." And then I was in semblance, and I walked up to him and talked to him, and he said, "Oh, hi, how's it going?"
Oh dear. That's good though.
Then I killed him.
Good.
I can explain. It recharged my void energy.
Explain that to his family.
But they'll seem very grief-stricken, but then as soon as I talk to them, I'll be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
Should we do questions?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Cool.
Hell yes.
Fab.
Wow.
Nice.
Getting pumped for questions here at the Crate Crowbar. And boy, we are pumped for questions because we've got quite a lot of questions this week. Partly because I asked for questions, which I haven't done for a while. Send us your questions. We might answer them.
No, it might not. It might not.
Or we might not. I'm just going to see how long I keep our pause going. Our first question is actually a grudge. I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to do the grudge first. Don't know why. Just mixing things up. You can't stop me. It comes from Aiden, who writes, and I'm looking at the screen, so this is really hard. I have to rotate myself really obviously. I've planned this really badly. Oh my god, I can't see this at all. There we go. Aiden writes, "Hi all. I don't like games with enemies that level up alongside you so that you can't go back to an early area and feel awesome or go to a difficult area and feel insignificant. I don't mind some smoothing of the curve, but let me kick ass or have my ass kicked a few times. You can call me Cornelius Grudge, but this really annoys me. Aiden." Yeah. Level scaling.
It's, it can be good. No, it can be bad.
You sound like a Newsnight politician tasked on an issue they haven't prepared.
The reason this question caught my attention was that I recently learned that XCOM's difficulty is just based on the calendar. So, like, in June, the enemies get harder, and in September, they hit this milestone. And so it's just going to happen on calendar time, which is interesting. Because I have noticed, like, even the zombies are getting more health now. Like, zombies in War of the Chosen are not at all hard at first, because if you kill one, you get a free action for killing them. So you can just keep killing them until you run out of ammo. But they are scaled up now to the point where it's quite hard to kill one in one shot. And that changes everything. And yeah, I always wondered whether it was scaling according to objectives. Like, I never really know in XCOM whether they do this weird thing where, like, the main objectives delay research or delay all the things you want to do to make your squad better. And so I just don't do them for ages because I really need my squad to be better. That's more important than completing the game. And that's what the the Avatar project. Yeah. That's obviously there to kind of
the advent calendar.
Yeah, I was actually I was going to make that joke on my XCOM Twitter thread because there's actually a calendar of Advents things. Like it pops up every now and then and says, "Here's when Advent's going to do this." So I reserve the right to also make that joke on Twitter.
I think we may have made that joke on the pod when XCOM 2 came out as well.
Probably.
So
my version of it is very good.
there's a lot of low hanging fruit on that tree, and like most fruit trees, they're all the same fruit. It's one of the problems with that analogy, and we've solved it.
Yep. Anyway, I don't like doing the main objectives that delay my progress in XCOM, and to be honest, knowing that they level up by calendar days has not changed that. It still seems like you should just leave it as late as you humanly can until the Advent calendar ticks up to Christmas.
To the deadly final
Christmas
box.
of death. It never bothered me in Skyrim or Oblivion. I know a lot of people were really upset about it in Oblivion, but it didn't really trouble me.
No. I have a slight life too short feeling about this in RPGs now, where I kind of want to go to the place and do the thing. As long as being able to do that doesn't break the story in some way. I want to feel like wherever I go is an adventure, because like that, going back to maybe the pen and paper point from earlier, the pen and paper point, like, you know, good RPGs often feel like a GM'd campaign, and a good GM will never let you like just, oh, you went there? Oh, you fucked up. There's no adventure there. Stop it. Go away. Go somewhere else. Like, I don't know. I'd rather games say yes to me.
I do like really high level challenges in RPGs though, like world bosses that go even beyond the end game. Things that will just kill you instantly, and you look at them and like, wow, okay, one day I'll beat that thing, and eventually coming back and killing that boss is a really good feeling. Even Assassin's Creed 4 had this in the form of pirate ships, like, or ghost ships, I think. There's a ghost ship on there somewhere, where they're like just mega ships, like legendary mega ships that you'll find like very rarely in the ocean. You can see their health bar from miles off and like, holy crap, I'll never be able to kill that. Whereas of course in the end game, you've got the firepower to do it, and it's really satisfying.
Yeah. So I will reserve, I reserve a space for sort of Leviathan monsters in games. I think that's the thing. You have to sell why it's more powerful than you. Like, it can't just be like a tougher version of the giraffe you're otherwise beating up every day.
It really pisses me off in World of Warcraft how no matter what level you are, no matter where you are, there's a fucking bear, and it's your level. Like, there's right from the start, there's bears, and you can defeat those easily. And then when you're 400 times more powerful than you used to be, there's just a different type of bear, and that's 400 times more powerful than the other type of bear.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this stems not from level scaling itself, but from what your basic unit of enemy is. So if your unit of enemies goes from rat to god, which is like the arc of most fantasy RPGs, then you'll never feel good about there being a level scaled rat when you are like the God Slayer, King Bane of wherever the fuck. But if your enemy scale starts with like, you know, bandit, then it feels a little bit better. I'm thinking maybe specifically of Destiny there, because Destiny's, you know, enemies scale, but they're fundamentally like enemy combatants. So it doesn't feel wrong that you still, because you do out level them a little bit, but it doesn't feel wrong that you still have to fight them.
Like, yeah, they're not innocent woodland creatures.
Yeah, it's not like you don't start off with like,
no,
bears or, you know, wolves or anything like that. You know, you're still fighting the same combatants later as you are when you start. It's just that you've also gone on and killed some gods, which is apparently where every RPG has to go. But yeah. Level scaling. It's alright, really.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, although this was a grudge, so I don't know. We don't have the authority to put it in the book or not.
No, we don't. Pip's not here.
So, who knows? It will,
Grudge Limbo.
Yeah, Grudge Limbo. Which is, something that happens at like a birthday party where the vibe's gone really weird. Matthew writes, would Tom F consider doing a Heatsig Q&A lock-in special podcast now that launch is finally upon us?
If that's the thing people want, I could do that. This is a character flaw, but I don't get bored of talking about my own games, even after doing it for like 3.5 years. For some reason, it's just like, that doesn't happen.
Maybe we should do one without you.
That would be interesting, yeah.
I'm not seriously suggesting that, but yeah, we could do that.
Well, it would be, it would be hard to do like a sort of, here's what we think of this game podcast with me in the room, right? It could be awkward.
Well, I mean, you know, don't aim small, burn the biggest bridge.
I also was interesting, like Mark Kermode he'll review a film in the same episode that they interview the director, and he won't always love it. And he doesn't get confrontational really well, the ones I've listened to. He doesn't really like bring up the criticisms with the director. You know, there's still valuable information to be gained there. But it always seems kind of awkward to me. The thing is, like, I mean, it's probably true for any developer if you had them in the room, but like 90% of a game's flaws, I will jump on and admit to and say, yeah, I know that's really annoying. We couldn't do that because then the game would take 6 years.
Something that we could do, which might make more sense than like sharing stories off the game with you in the room, which could just be, well, it could be fun, but it could be weird, is take questions specifically about Heatsig. Don't accidentally announce this now when you haven't agreed to it, but like, you know, and then we can ask you the questions rather than...
We should play it with Tom watching. Like, going, oh my god, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
The Tom Francis Reacts series. Oh, that's how we get big on YouTube.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, a Tom Francis React to whatever it is. And it's just videos of people playing this game badly.
I can't, I really want YouTubers to play the game, but then when they do, I can't watch because, like, especially if it's already out there and it's like a really big YouTuber, and it's gone out to like 50,000 people or something. At that point, I can't watch the video because if it's painful, it will be 50,000 times as painful because I know, the way it always feels to me is like, your kid is taking an exam and you can just watch helplessly from the sidelines. You have no influence on whether they're going to pass or fail, and it's in front of thousands of people, and you just have to watch helplessly as like, oh, is it going to stand up to what they're doing? No, fuck. Usually it does, but it's the chance of it failing is too awful.
Yeah, I want to do this now. All right, we'll see. We'll see what can happen. Alex writes, my favourite title substitution word is sausage for anything that begins with S. He suggests Metal Gear Sausage. Sausage Fighter also is funny if you're 12.
I like Rainbow Sausage Vegas.
Yeah.
The sausage.
What are you replacing?
I'll give you a clue to what that was. The sausage for pets.
The Sausage World.
The Secret World?
Yeah.
Good.
Sausage the Sausager. This is the worst bit of audio.
No, I haven't got it.
No, can't get it.
Wait for it. I'm going to have to stop this bit, Tom, or else this is going to people already...
No, you got to tell me.
Simon the Sorcerer.
Oh my god.
Yep, well...
Okay, that's that bit.
Yeah. Send us your jokes, we'll kill them.
Yep.
Oh, Divinity Original Sausage.
Nice. That's actually, yeah, that's pretty good. There are definitely no other games with the word S in
Bio Sausage.
Sausage. Or System Shock, as it's also known.
System Sausage would be good, but it doesn't work because you've got to replace the system as well.
Yeah, to maybe fix this algorithm, you can't replace both sausages. You've got to only partially replace. Good.
Oh, give me a second.
You got time in the world.
Sausages, sausage roll.
How about sausages, Stephen Roll? By Sausage Lavelle. Sorry, I don't know why I'm angry now. The next question. I'm not sure that was a question. It's just an invitation to a tangent. Comes from George, who writes, Mario plus Rabbids shows that the XCOM formula is pretty flexible. What TV show, film, book, or song would you meld with XCOM to create a hit? He also suggests an XCOM game in which you manage underground pop-punk bands in the 90s and noughties called XCOM NME Unknown, which is very good. Well done.
Yeah. Not sure we can improve on that.
No, but I do like the idea that I very specifically like the suggestion song that you meld with XCOM. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could have like Panic by the Smiths. You know, there's Panic on the streets of London, like XCOM style Panic, like and Birmingham, and all you're allowed to do is have feelings about it distantly.
Let's make love and listen to Death from Above.
Yeah. Those are the two things. Those are the two actions on the action bar. They both take one action point. So you can move and perform either of those actions. But if you want to do both, you have to stay still.
Unless you unlock run and gun, then you can.
Then you can both run and make love and listen to Death from Above at the same time. God. Only the Ranger class can do that.
Okay. Only the Skirmisher can make love, then listen to Death from Above.
Or they can just make love twice. Oh dear.
With the lightning hands perk.
Good. How did this end up? Sexcom, quite so quickly. It is mentioned Sex Bomb by Tom Jones. That's not really a suggestion. It's just a pun. Just a pun.
XCOM. Is it you're my XCOM?
Yeah.
And then
you're in XCOM.
You can take the sectoids on.
No, it doesn't quite.
Because it's something you can always turn me on, isn't it?
That's the end of the chorus. So I don't want to like workshop this bit too strongly. No, XCOM as a formula though is quite adaptable. Like I know it's kind of been done, but I really want someone to do Power Rangers XCOM, basically, in terms of adapting TV shows, like as in like teenagers with attitude turning into big robots. Like there was a game, like an indie game that was about that, and you were kind of also running a TV studio where the thing was being filmed. But I don't know if it had like the full XCOM thing. I kind of want XCOM, but on lots of different scales like that, where like you fight your opponents for a bit, then your opponents get really big, and then you turn into lots of big robots, and then they turn into one big opponent, then you turn into one big robot.
It's a beat 'em up.
And then it's a beat 'em up. Yeah. Basically.
Sounds good.
Make that game developers.
There's a level in No More Heroes on the Wii, which is like that. It's very fun.
Good. So books, I'm not really necessarily sure what the natural XCOM, but for literary sources are. I'd play an XCOM for cyberpunk hackers. That'd be a cool thing. Running, I don't know, is that just Invisible Ink? That's just Invisible Ink.
Yeah.
Okay, ignore me.
Already made that perfectly.
If you got no other suggestions, I'm probably just going to sneeze.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm out.
I'm trying to, it's not there yet, but I'll just throw what I have.
Okay. I'm buying time for Tom to workshop the rest of Sexcom.
No, I'm trying to come up with a play on Jonathan Franzen's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close that plays on the fact that XCOM soldiers can miss at incredibly close range. But I'm not quite there yet. I've got like 50% of it.
All right. Let us know. You're saying you've got a 50% chance of landing.
It's like extremely inaccurate and incredibly close. That's the best I can do.
But basically, you're taking aim at this joke right now, and the little accuracy rating is like wavering around
65%.
Oh. Okay. Who knew there was so much like observational stand-up comedy in XCOM? Probably just Jake Solomon. Yes, I think maybe we've exhausted our XCOM jokes, unless you're any closer to this time.
Nope.
Okay, good.
Let's go.
Alistair writes, Dear Quake and Cower, games have been trying to scare us forever. From the zombies of Resident Evil to the monstrosities of Soma, enemy design is supposed to make us afraid. The one enemy that has inspired the most visceral reaction in me, though, is the drowned spider people things in Dark Souls 3. My question is this, which character design has evoked the strongest negative feeling in you as soon as you see it? It could be fear, disgust, anger, or anything. It does not have to be a horror game. Thanks for podding along, Alistair. Strongest feelings of revulsion from a character in a game?
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this once before, but it was not an intentional character design. It was a bug in Mafia, maybe Mafia 2. Just a cafe scene, sitting down to talk to some mobster, and all of the vertices of his face had been randomized. So it was just like a cloud of flesh spikes.
Jimmy
and it was like, it was so horrific. I felt physically ill. Oh. It was just, oh my God, I can't look at it.
That's horrendous. That's awful.
And, no horror game has come close, really.
I like the they're not called limpets in the game Half-Life 2, are
Barnacles.
they? Barnacles. Then you go on the ceiling, they suck you up, and then they eat your head. That's horrible.
Yeah, when they start eating your head, that's not great. But the blackhead grabs.
Oh yeah, there's gross as well.
That's like
right up.
They're not terrifying to look at exactly, it's just because you know what they can do.
Yeah, the noise is horrible as well.
It's a great idea for an enemy, the enemy that takes you to 1 health.
Yeah, actually, facehuggers in any game that they're in, anything that latch itself onto your face is pretty bad.
Always bad, yeah. Face leap enemies, horrible.
It's kind of funny that Half-Life is so, headcrab are one of its central enemies, but it doesn't, they don't actually latch onto your face, they just bump into you and bounce off again.
Yeah, it's because you're wearing a helmet, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose they need to explain why they're not insta-kill for you.
Yeah, because Gordon's wearing a, you see the HEV suit hat.
Yeah. You would think,
display.
Except in all concept art where it must be removed because no one's allowed to wear helmets in concept art.
Yeah. That's true. I wonder if he's wearing it in Half-Life 2. Write in if you know whether Gordon Freeman is wearing a hat in Half-Life 2.
The fucking movie thing of just, let's all take our helmets off in this hostile environment. So many sci-fi movies have that scene where they're on an alien planet and then someone has a theory that it might be breathable air, and to test this theory, they take their helmet off.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't kill them, it's not a huge issue, but it could have killed them.
It's a superhero movie thing as well. The mask has to fall off towards the end of the boss fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then, not to spoil it, but Prometheus breaks this rule in that the characters take their helmets off stupidly, and then it is a fucking huge problem. Not to go into specifics, but they shouldn't have taken their fucking helmets off.
There's a lot of things people shouldn't have done in Prometheus.
Yes.
Up to and including possibly making Prometheus.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the stupidest collection of characters I've ever seen in a film.
It's amazing. It's close to being a very good parody, of what people do in these films, but they're so stupid it almost goes beyond.
They're supposed to be scientists. Well, they're supposed to be ostensibly clever people.
Yeah. But you know what a scientist does when it encounters a crazy centipede? They just put that thing right in their face. They just give it a big sniff.
Just
put it up your nose, lick it, chew it, wink
Put
at
it in your ear, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what happens.
See if it likes living inside your shirt. Just make sure it's happy.
Whatever it wants to do.
You don't know what its comfort boundaries are, so just let it do what it wants.
Are they making another Prometheus? Is it a fucking trilogy now?
They made Covenant. Or Convent. No, it wasn't Convent.
Although there was a monk-based alien, wasn't there?
That was the original script for Alien 3.
Yeah. It's on a wood planet, wasn't it?
A wooden space station, even.
Yeah.
I like the mad ideas for alien movies that never got made.
Yeah, me too.
What was the real Alien Resurrection?
Alien 3 was the one on the prison planet, and then Alien Resurrection was the, what was the director of Alien Resurrection?
Joss Whedon.
No, he wrote it. He didn't direct it.
No, you're right, you didn't.
Because, it was, the guy who made Delicatessen.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And I completely blanked on his name because my brain has just decided that his name is Jean-Michel Jarre, which definitely isn't.
He is French, I think.
It is. Yes. That is the only connection it's making, and unfortunately, those two things being in any way remotely alike has erased that real information from
I think it was Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah, exactly.
Delicatessen. And Alien 3.
Well, yeah.
Hell is other people and that alien over there.
Yeah, exactly. The real monstrosity of post-structuralism is this creature.
It's the fucking alien, look at it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Alien's fascinating in that I believe that it is a rare example of the film series that is still going despite getting worse with every single iteration after the first one.
Yeah, have you seen the AVP films?
Yeah.
I've seen too many of them.
No, I haven't seen any actually.
Please don't. It's not good for you.
They're sort of, I think they're comforting. This is turning into a fun podcast. Fuck it, doesn't matter. They're comforting in a way because they are, sometimes you watch alien films when you're a teenager and you're like, this would be better if it was just action. If it was just things jumping and screaming, I'd like this more. And then you kind of need the AVP films to exist to show you why you don't want that. Because it is just jumping and screaming.
It's a cautionary tale.
The first AVP basically takes place in what looks like a kind of N64 era GoldenEye level.
Yeah.
Because it's just big square geometry and things pyramid, that squash people. Yeah. And aliens and predators are also there. And that's it. That's the film. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
Yeah. Amazing. Just stop making alien films, honestly. They made one amazing one, one good one, and so on.
I actually watched Alien and Aliens quite recently, and I was surprised how much more I liked Aliens.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the prototype action movie, obviously. Like everything is.
I like Aliens, but like it feels like it's not really a sequel to Alien, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it's totally different. But
like I love the movie series implied by Alien, but I think there's only one of them, and then there is Aliens, and then there's lots of films like Aliens, but none of the other Aliens films are like Aliens. Yeah, Aliens could be worse. Could have been Avatar.
Oh God.
So sorry, I'm falling on the...
They're making 1 million of those, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Are they?
Like, of course, and actually because there was a big thing going around about, like, isn't it incredible, the highest grossing film of all time, none of us can remember a single plot detail of it. And James Cameron saw this and was like, oh yeah, I should make 3 more.
So people remember Unobtainium.
Oh no.
I will just always remember Unobtainium. That's it.
We'll always have Unobtainium. Yeah, that's the classic film line.
Exactly. Forget it, Jake. It's Unobtainium.
And there's a fight with a mech and one of the blue people at the end, and the mech pulls a knife in one of the funniest moments in cinema. The idea that you'd equip a mech with quite a small knife that then sort of has a shank fight with it.
I like the bit where at the end of that fight, the snow globe drops out of the mech's hands and it just whispers, Unobtainium, as it shatters on the ground. I remember a lot of things about that film and nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, Tom remembered a detail of Avatar, so
it was hilarious.
You're ahead of most of us. I remember there was a big tree in it.
There was a big tree. And some drop ships. It cost a lot to make. Those are the things I remember about.
3D was quite good in it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't see it in 3D.
I went to see it with my sister and her boyfriend, and before we went to see it, her boyfriend brought around an entire ham to my parents' house, which felt like a gesture possibly too far. Yeah. That's the main thing I remember about Avatar.
That's the most memorable thing about Avatar. Exactly. The whole ham that was nearby.
Like, good for you, mate. It was a delicious ham. Anyway, I can't remember what the question was. That was the question about scary monsters in games. Believe it or not. Moving on, we have quite a long question from Rahul, so I will truncate it a little bit. He writes, Good morning, cans and can openers. In episode 200, you discuss Tacoma and touch on the data mining percentage counter and whether or not this ticks up if you play the game or not. You see it tick up very slowly in real time, and its slow pace is one way to incentivize you to go slow and to go play the game, i.e. explore the ship and view the AR recordings. When you return to the terminal after having walked through and experienced a section, the percentage will have artificially jumped up. I haven't tested this myself, but TV Tropes indicates that the playing of the game isn't mandatory, and if you do leave the terminal plugged in then and just wait it out, the game can effectively complete itself. But it takes roughly 9 hours. This, however, isn't a secret or a non-standard ending. You just complete your narrative task without having uncovered all the context just by playing the game. You aren't rewarded for your patience, but then it doesn't expect you to do so. It's merely a nice Easter egg to make the world feel a little bit more real, as the task will complete as it should to do without your intervention. He goes on to mention the sort of Easter egg ending of Far Cry 4 very early on, where if you just sit still when the villain tells you to do for 10 minutes, the game ends. He also mentions a similar puzzle in The Witness and in Braid. And his question is, can you think of any other games which have mechanics requiring or at least the consequences for player passivity? And where and how do you judge these games and my above examples for their merit or enjoyment on this aspect? And then he adds that he likes that the Tacoma team didn't go for like an achievement for Tacoma's non-standard ending, instead just sort of letting it sit there. The Witness is my favourite. He concludes, as it's generous enough to give the player something which is highly likely to interest them if they're the type to get that far into the game, but with no meta signal to show to others that they've done it. Braids, however, fucks me right off. Thanks for reading, everybody. Raoul.
Oh my god, I did not find the thing that is... Oh no, wait, sorry, I'm misremembering. So the Witness thing, there's like a sort of underground cinema, and there are several different things that can be showing on the screen. There is one that goes on for a very long time and is fucking boring, and there's no payoff. But the thing that you have to wait a really long time for, I think it's like might even be like a GDC talk or something. Like it's a lecture. I haven't watched it, but I don't entirely agree that anyone who's into that game would want to watch it, because I was pretty into that game, but I did not want to watch it. There's a pretty sort of classic example, not too extreme, in Deus Ex Human Revolution, where you're told there's a hostage situation, but it's also your first time in your like home base, and you can go around and talk to everyone, snoop through the offices and stuff. But if you just keep doing that, eventually the hostages are killed, and you're told this, and it's cool. To be honest, I kind of, in that context, I almost prefer it if the game doesn't pressure you, or I don't know. There's a bit of it feels a bit of a fuck you, because the reason we don't hurry in those situations is because we know from experience games don't simulate this thing, and so it's almost as if games have asked us not to take this seriously. And then when one day you say, "Oh, why didn't you save them? You should have saved them. You should have taken less time." It feels a bit like, well, because you and all your game developer friends taught me not to care about this. But I don't know. It certainly didn't bother me in Human Revolution.
It's a good one in Final Fantasy VI, where you get a cool ninja party member. He's a ninja. He's got a dog who does all his finishes for him. And you go to a village, and it's set fire to, and the ninja decides he's going to run back into the fire, and he's going to try his best to save everyone. And it's very much like written like a goodbye. And, he says, "I may never come back, but, it's been a pleasure, fighting alongside." If you wait there for like 10 minutes, he just comes back. if you leave him, you don't get him ever again. Like it's just
that's amazing.
He's lost. It's a very witty. There's one of many witty elements to Final Fantasy VI, which is a very funny game. Anyway.
This reminds me of this is a film, so wildly irrelevant, but it's a very similar scene. Pushing Tin with John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton, where they're both air traffic controllers and they're trying to like out badass each other. There's a lot of like machoism, and there's like a bomb in the building, and they've got to direct all the planes safely to ground before they leave the building, because like, if you just abandon planes in the middle of landing maneuvers, they can crash. And so John Cusack, like going up to the last minute, directing all his planes, like everyone else has evacuated the building, and then he just finally like slams down his headset, sprints from the building in slow motion, like dives into the snow, and then just nothing happens. And then like there is no bomb, and Billy Bob Thornton stayed behind and directed all traffic and won the day. And then the news footage of it afterwards just shows while some cowards fled the scene. It's like face planting into the snow.
Thinking that it's interesting the way that Mass Effect's interrupts system went from being a mechanic that had sort of equal pathways for being an active player or a passive player, but was sort of steadily implemented more as a prompt to choose an action, where being passive was basically always bad. Sort of interesting, because the purpose of that was always for you to interrupt something, but that, an equally valid choice was to not do the thing that you're being prompted you can do, which is a passivity mechanic, because you're popping up a prompt for the player and offering them the choice to use it or not, and offering them a certain set of consequences if they don't do it. Whereas over time, that sort of devolved a bit into like, do the good shouting, do the bad shooting. And if you didn't do those things, you had to earn points to unlock the ability to do those things in some cases. And that in turn means that, doing them is always right. Which it's kind of the opposite of this, but it's a way that, what was initially a kind of a mechanic to give players time limited ways of choosing whether they were going to act or refuse to act, actually became a kind of just an extra set, like almost like a QTE or something, where it wasn't mandatory, but if you wanted the most dramatic outcomes and the best outcomes, then you probably had to. I'm kind of interested when those mechanics show up and they're not, they are fully fleshed out, regardless of whether or not you choose to take action or not.
The Tacoma one, I'm not surprised that there isn't like a special ending for it, because you're not really doing anything different. Like when you go off and you do watch those logs, you don't interact with them, you don't change the world, you just sit there and watch stuff. And you scrub through it, it's like interactive watching, but story-wise, you're not doing anything different than if you did just sit there and wait for your thing to finish. It's really just like, are you curious about what happened here? If so, you can find out. And so if you're not curious, then I mean, you pretty much have to be in game sense, because
you can roleplay as the person just brings a magazine with them to the terminal.
And even like whether you have that information or not is not really relevant to how the game plays out. It doesn't ask you to like make a decision about that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of It doesn't really feel like an alternate ending in the same way that like Far Cry 4 things did.
Did the first Dead Rising do this properly? Because the thing about the Dead Rising games until the most recent one was that they have a timer.
The first one failed you, didn't it? I mean, it was...
Did it fail you, or could you just hide and then get rescued?
I'm not sure, actually. Good question.
I think you get the worst ending.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember if it would just let you, like, stay in the safe room for 72 hours and then go get rescued, which is kind of what you would do. I don't know, though.
No, I'm not sure.
But yeah, it's interesting when...
Outer Wilds was... So, I've never played it, but I understand this is what Majora's Mask does. It's on a kind of timer. It's a solar system, and it's the game where you can, like... It's first person, but you can go inside a spaceship, which is a thing I'm a fan of, and take off and go to different planets in this very small solar system. But also that solar system's on a kind of schedule of things that are going to happen, including, I think, eventually the entire thing just blows up. It's going to like go supernova, and then you die, and then you go back and you do it again. And it's about, I guess, figuring out like what you can do in that space, and figuring out, and also just exploring what was happening on this planet while this was happening. Does anyone know if that was out now?
I don't know.
It was in the IGF, and I loved it, and I voted for it, and it won. And then there was the FIG campaign, the crowdfunding platform that's kind of in conjunction with Double Fine, and it was successfully funded there. And that's the last I remember. I don't remember if it actually sort of had an official final release, because it was really, I wouldn't say finished, but it was really all there in the IGF build. It was, you know, you could polish it, but it was a whole game.
The other thing that comes to mind is there's a Metal Gear Solid 3 boss that you can wait out for a week to the point where he dies of old age.
Is it like, do you have to have the game running for a week?
Yes, I think you do. Or maybe it's something to do with the time on your save. I think you have to keep it running. Basically, he's an extremely old man, and if you wait long enough, he will just die.
It's called The End.
Yeah.
And he's a sniper who just lies there and waits for you to just slowly make your way towards him, unless you don't. In which case, you know, it's the end of him.
Oh, shit. I wonder if it's coming up to time. There is an achievement in Stanley Parable that is just don't play the Stanley Parable for 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I must be...
Are we coming up on that? I feel like I haven't played it for 3 years.
I feel like that as well. Oh, wow,
Maybe
finally we can get that
an achievement.
Yeah, I like these sort of ideas, actually. Well, actually, specifically, I really like games that have some kind of like occurs in real time element that you can go back and play with and do, or avoid actions as you see fit. That's something I'm kind of into thematically.
Stanley Parable must have been after Gunpoint, because the Stanley Parable demo references the Gunpoint demo.
Does it?
Yeah, it's an incredible like custom made demo Stanley Parable one.
Yeah, it's great.
Gunpoint's is not at all. I went the opposite approach. But all I did was have a sort of like fourth wall breaking conversation at the end of the demo where I ask you to buy the game. But Stanley Parable features like a little gallery of like notable demos of our time, and there's like Half-Life Uplink there, and for some reason Gunpoint isn't there.
Oh. Yeah, maybe I did know that. That rings a bell now.
So, and Gunpoint was 4 years ago, so depends how much longer after. I feel like it wasn't too long after.
There's no way to find out. Impossible information.
We don't live in an age where we can easily find information like that.
No, nor should we.
It's lost to time.
Do
you think you have to... Sorry.
No, go on.
Do you think you have to, like, fire up the game to get the achievement? Like, should it just be unlocked, or... I think, actually, knowing what I know about how achievements work, I think the game would have to run to unlock it.
So you can check. You'll have your last played on date on Steam.
Yeah. So before you run it, check that date. If it's less than 3 years, don't play it. But if it's more than 3 years,
unless
play
you
it.
just want to enjoy the game, that's a reasonable reason to boot Stanley Parable.
Nah. Only the achievement matters.
Well, it means that you've got some time now. So if you haven't played Stanley Parable yet, buy it now, load it once, close it, and then come back in the year 2021.
Oh my god.
And then you can, from the back of your desert crossing big rig, steal enough gasoline. Steal enough gasoline to get your old PC running again, and you too can claim that achievement.
get you far enough to reach the big town, at which point you'll be like, oh, fuck this.
Exactly. And you can return to your life in the desert where things are simpler and you don't have quite so many quests.
And you can cook food just on the ground.
Yeah, indeed.
Throw food on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and then be murdered in your sleep for your precious reserves of unobtainium.
Well, we've done all the callbacks we can do now.
Well, anyway, Will writes, howdy, Thirst Toms and Pip Bar. As an aviation fan, I've been infatuated for a few years with hardcore flight simulators like DCS World and IL-2. Not having the means to justify building a potent PC and peripherals to handle the demands of these sims, I seem to be fine with regularly checking the news and forums for them, and watching YouTube videos to learn about and understand the experience of flying these things vicariously through those who do. Have any of you been a satisfied voyeur of a game, genre, or community to learn about an interest while not playing them? Confession, I stopped playing PC games some years ago, but became an ardent listener to CNC because you explore the medium in a very stimulating way, and I like how it makes me think. I like how you think.
Wow, get a room.
I'm in my...
Get a different room. Or we could leave this one.
Okay. Secondly... Sorry, I made myself laugh by thinking about the XCOM conversation from earlier. Secondly, the fidelity that flight sims are able to exploit these days means that long development times to accurately research and model complicated systems ultimately for a niche audience. It's specifically this technical aspect has guided me to a better understanding of history than I could have found otherwise. It's occurred to me that this transcends the art of game design to the end of preserving a real experience that could not be achieved again in another physical place or medium. Question, is there a future for games to preserve tactile historical experiences, much how museums curate artifacts from them? Thanks, and tell Marsh to bring Fail Forward back, Will. So, question 1 is enjoying games vicariously through others. The obvious answer here is EVE Online, I think, which is a game primarily enjoyed vicariously.
Yeah, EVE Online's a good one. Those two for me, watching it, and I think StarCraft 2 probably for you.
Yeah, for me, StarCraft 2, I watch pro StarCraft 2 a lot, and I don't really play the game.
I think on a community-wide level, like in terms of following like every aspect of the game except playing it, it's probably just EVE for me. I'm trying to think. I do check in with like other MMOs sometimes just because I'm kind of curious about how things change and what people are up to. I think I've inured myself to the sensation that like, oh, maybe it's time I got back into Final Fantasy 14, whatever it is this week.
Yeah.
Like, you sometimes get that urge and then you do the 2 lunchtimes worth of playing it and then you do, oh, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
It's more fun to find out like, oh, that's what people are doing. That's the raid boss they've just beaten. That's cool. I'll watch the videos of that. Or watching the endings of Xbox games I'll never play on YouTube because you're momentarily curious and life is finite and what better use of it than that? Yeah, I'm trying to think. Other than that, not sure. I like the idea of watching flight sims though.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I played a bit of Gwent and I quite liked it, but like I'm not really into sort of versus multiplayer games. But I ended up, not for the first time, enjoying watching Christopher Odd play it more than I enjoyed playing it myself.
Get a room.
Damn it. And yeah, it was just, that's a genre of game that I'm probably not really into playing, but I like watching.
Sorry, I was drinking. The other part of this question is over there on my screen. I just blanked completely. Oh, future for preserving historical experiences in museums through interactive media. Feels like it should be. Like, I think about this in terms of archiving, not just, I mean, obviously you talk about historical experiences, flight and, you know, flying aircraft and things, but actually I wonder about preserving past experiences of technology, including games, but not limited to games. Like, I wonder, there must be people preserving the experience of using the first version of the internet or connecting to the internet on a 56k modem or that kind of thing. Maybe they're not, but that seems like a shame to me. You know what I mean? That like, we seem to be not curious about, obviously we preserve technology in terms of the physical stuff, but they don't seem to be too much attention. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, write in because I'd be interested to know sort of attention paid to preserving the experience of technology at a given time, right? Like, I kind of want to go to the museum of well, one day in 40 years time, I want to take my grandchildren to the museum of what phones were like in the late 90s. And, watch their baffled faces as they try and play Snake, Or send a text message where you got to press
all the buttons.
Each button.
You have to press the numbers like multiple times to get the right.
Remember that? Like
letter.
That's something we could all do.
Wow.
Intuitively, and can't anymore.
That was a skill I never actually developed because I was late enough to, ever texting anyone. I didn't really need to do that at any given speed. I remember watching people do it like super, super fast.
Yeah. I think that was a thing.
I think lots of places are being preserved, especially like when you look at Google Maps and like 3D renders of existing places. Like, how we rebuild medieval streets from quite bad drawings before perspective was really well understood, and then trying to extrapolate what things were like. Well, now we've got vast databases of what pretty much every street in major cities look like. It's all documented. So we'll be able to see how our cities and living spaces change.
I wonder, so I think it was announced recently that Battleborn is going to stop receiving updates soon.
That was news. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. Yeah, you're right.
Somebody was saying that it's a shame that they are not turning off the server check before that. So essentially, the final version of Battleborn will require the servers to be online to work, and therefore one day it will stop working and you won't be able to play it. And obviously, like all online games, kind of have an end date in that sense, unless the community takes it over and finds a way to sort of make their own custom servers and stuff. But I'm sure we've lost a lot of those already. And then I watched a really interesting video today by someone called Summoning Salt, who is into the speedrunning community. And apparently he's done a load of these videos for different speedrunning communities, but the one I watched was for Half-Life 2, talking about the journey to getting like sub 2 hours in a single run, like one person just doing it live from start to finish. And it's a really good video. I recommend it. But they were saying like a lot of these world records, the history of these world records being beaten happened on Twitch. It was live streamed. And way back in the day, Twitch used to just... all your past broadcasts would just be saved. They're just there. And so anyone can watch them anytime. It was all preserved. And then one day they said, we're deleting all those. And you could preserve them if you went back and found the bit you wanted to save and made it a highlight, which is how it works now. If you make something a highlight, it's saved. Otherwise it gets deleted. But I remember this happening at the time. They did not give nearly enough warning for that kind of thing. Like a huge amount of history and data was just lost right then and there. Including a whole load of world record breaking Half-Life 2 attempts. I mean, records that have been surpassed now, but records are shattered like in amazing runs. And this guy's saying like it's a really weird situation where one of the most sort of historic record-breaking runs doesn't exist, and no one can find it. But there are hundreds and hundreds of people who watched it live who can say, yeah, he did it. It was this. I've got a screenshot of the end screen, but you can't watch it now.
That's really interesting. All these speedruns lost to time. like
bunny hops in the rain.
Roy Batty, attack ships off the shoulder of Orion, any percent. Any percent, dog kills only.
Kill the animals.
Yeah. Next question comes from DOSBox. So either a machine that runs DOS or two boxes, depending on where you're from. Dear Pip and the Pipettes.
Or Divinity Original Sin.
Or Death of Some Box. Right. Dear Pip and the Pipettes. Most games seem to take a straightforward approach by having... So this is based on the subject line, which is about food in games. Most games seem to take a straightforward approach by having food provide sustenance. Some games inhibit the player by simulating the effects of alcohol or poison, with an occasional twist of granting short-term beneficial effects. Are there any games where consuming food changes the character more significantly? Thanks for the podding, DOSBox.
This is not 100% what they're asking, but I'm always fascinated by the effect of food and drink on mana. Particularly in the Shock games. In System Shock, I think I'm right in saying that coffee increased your psi points and alcohol decreased them. And in the Dishonored games and Prey, anything fish related boosts your mana. Like eels and, I think in Prey, is it eels again? It's definitely fish stuff.
That you were almost freestyling then, because you were very, very close to like Dishonored and Prey, eat a lamprey, get your mana back. But I genuinely thought when you said and prey that you said lamprey, and then I thought about eels, and it just, my mind just melted slightly.
Drinking dulls your psi power, but in Bioshock smoking increases it.
Yeah, smoking hurts you, but increases your.
So it's kind of like Shuzpa or something, just like, your
Well, it seems
quality.
to be like a strange correlation between uppers and downers, and your health and mana.
Yeah,
because like System Shock is downers are health and uppers are mana, basically.
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of a logic to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least one of these, like, drinking...
That's not how it works in real life, kids.
At least one of these, like, drinking increases your health. And in the Elder Scrolls games, drinking will fortify your strength but reduce your intelligence. And we were trying to remember this. I feel like there's a big game where eating human flesh has some big effect on you. Like... It gives you cannibalism or something, and cannibalism is some kind of persistent trait.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It was an Elder Scrolls game, but...
Was it a Fallout?
Oh, maybe.
I think it was a Fallout.
That'll explain why I think it might be... It's in that engine.
Yeah.
I didn't play any Fallouts until 3.
I think it's a Fallout 3, or Vegas, or 4. I think it's a Fallout game by Bethesda, is what I'm saying. Or not by Bethesda. I think it's a 3D Fallout game, is what I'm saying. Yes, you're right. There is a game where becoming a cannibal is a thing. There's pre and post cannibal experiences and phenomena. Yes, but we definitely can't remember what the fuck it is.
Maybe become a ghoul or something. I can't remember. Write in.
Write in if you can remember what the hell we're trying to remember. Because you
write in if you know what happens if you eat human flesh.
Yeah, because you were telling a story about Rich, weren't you, Tom?
Oh yeah, Rich McCormick, former writer, PC Gamer, wrote a Now Playing, which is like a little diary feature you run each month, about how in Elder Scrolls games you eat things, and when you eat them, you discover their properties in case you want to brew potions in the future. So the best thing to do is just to hammer your way through everything and just gobble it all up in one go. And so Rich was like hammering the F key or whatever it was, just like eating plants and, bones and, bits of twig he had found, and then realized suddenly that he'd eaten a bicep or something, just a piece of human that he picked up. And, there are lots of, there's an amazing line in great gaming sound effects for eating things, especially like specialized sound effects for eating grain or meat or
like kind of munch or a kind of
or a crunch, kind of.
I love the sort of the crunch bite that is almost certainly someone eating an apple in the sound recording, because that's a really good sound effect.
So Rich realised with horror that he had eaten human flesh, and Rich McCormick is vegetarian, so it's a weird kind of dilemma. Not only it's cannibalism, but also eating an animal, which is, as a human. And he just freaked him out for a while. It was a bad experience reflecting on that.
I gather in Divinity Original Sin 2, you can eat like human limbs and stuff. And I think that as undead, maybe that helps in some way. I've heard lots of stories about people eating legs accidentally.
You should be able to eat crickets in, RPGs. Apparently that's the future of protein intake for humans.
I think you can certainly eat some insects in Skyrim, like butterflies and stuff.
Definitely can in Zelda. Oh no, you make elixirs out of them actually.
I ate some silkworms recently.
How are they?
It was crunchy.
Did they make you stealthy?
No. No, they didn't. Well, no. It was nighttime, so that didn't I got the stealth buff from being nighttime, not from eating silkworms. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Excellent.
Is it? Lawrence writes, a few days back, I was talking with a couple of fellow Crate and Crowbar Discord members about functionally useless things games will allow you to do in order to express character and otherwise add a bit of life to a game's world. The first example we brought up was the ability to pet animals in open world games. This isn't a useful thing to be able to do. You're not rewarded with XP or in-game currency for taking time to pet the goodest boy you can find, but it still adds a layer of player expression, however minute, that can be easy to overlook. A game that expands on this in ways I wasn't expecting was Watch Dogs 2. The game features a sort of social engineering system that allows the player to influence the mood of NPCs around them. This can be used to distract people, e.g. getting 2 NPCs angry to the point they start to fight or create a ruckus, drawing the eyes of civilians and guards alike. Complementing this, the player character Marcus can jeer, laugh, wave, flirt, which the game usually rewards with someone punching you for catcalling, cheer for, or even insult NPCs. These actions prompt different changes in mood for both the target of your interaction as well as the surrounding NPCs. Dancing next to a busker will make other NPCs in the vicinity laugh or cheer. Telling an NPC marked as angry to chill out will cause their mood to become more neutral, and so on and so forth. I found this as a really cool way to express who Marcus was beyond his ability to engage in indiscriminate murder and car chases. My questions are, do you have any examples of fun little ways game allow the player to interact and express character within the world around them? Do you feel these can be valuable at all? Am I just reading too much into my ability to take time out of infiltrating a high security base to pet a dog with my robot arm? So long, and thanks for all the pods. Lawrence, who's Morgan on Discord.
I like the story.
Yeah, although obviously the Watch Dogs system isn't purely for expression. It has a very specific set of
I played Watch Dogs 2 a bunch. I had no idea you could do stuff like that. That's cool. I think I didn't know that stuff affected anything.
Right.
And also, just realism point, saying calm down to an angry person does not work.
Oh yeah, I will actually, yeah.
Oh yeah, good point.
Tommy, you came up with a good one.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. I was going to say it. Do you want me to remind you what it was?
Yeah, I do.
It's Destiny related.
Oh yeah. So in, thanks for reminding me of like literally 30 minutes ago or whatever it was. So yeah, one of Destiny 1's big raids, you fight the giant god creature that is threatening all of human existence, and in the final boss fight, you can point at him and he points back and goes,
it's because you're stuck on the other side of a window from him for a bit, and you can point at him through the window, and yeah, he just points at you back.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's as in, to clarify, it is the point emote, and he just has a little thing coded in so that he responds to that, which is always nice.
I love that little touch. Sorry to mention Zelda again, but you can make friends with dogs in Zelda, in settlements. You can get some meat out, put it down in front of them, and they'll eat it, and little hearts will come out of them. That's adorable.
You can do that with quite a lot of animals in Zelda.
You
feed horses,
you can charm them and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's obviously in multiplayer games, there's taunting. And in TF2, that was a whole culture. They had they had some taunts that kill people, which is obviously a functional thing more than an expression thing, and had achievements for those. But also my favorite was always, the spy had a taunt where he would take his cigarette case out and just, flick his cigarette away and draw a new one. And it was the sort of the classiest, gloat if you killed somebody, and it made you it locked you in place, made you helpless for 5 seconds. It was a terrible idea strategically, but it was just a way to express your smugness.
Vanquish has the smoke a cigarette button.
Oh, it does.
Which you can do when you're behind cover. You can, the faceplate on your sci-fi Rocket Man helmet slides past, and you can light a cigarette. And then when you release the button, he throws it over the cover he's under. So it does have a very, very, very minor gameplay effect, because the robots you're fighting track heat, so they will momentarily shoot in the wrong direction when you do this. But it's not really that useful for that, because you are a Rocket Need Mega Man, and you can do what you please. But yeah, you can still nonetheless just press RB to smoke, which is a good touch. Good pointless button prompt. Is it Cargo Commander where you can press a button to swear? That came up a couple of pods ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could smoke in Metal Gear Solid 5, but it passed time, so it was pretty functional.
That's because you're smoking Big Boss's time cigar.
Yeah.
Which isn't amazingly a euphemism.
I need to play that game again.
But mentioning that just made me remember me playing that game and the fact that I was not playing as Big Boss. I was playing as some totally different character, and how amazing is that? They just let you just be someone totally different. You can just do the whole game as just this guy, just that guy.
That game is another one of those just amazing kind of, how did you make this kind of experiences? I kind of miss it. Is it weird that I miss it? It's from 2015 and I was like, oh, that feels like such a long time ago now.
Yeah, I miss it as well.
I want to replay it actually. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I finished it, but I think I got through all the juicy open world stuff, and that's the bit I want to replay.
Sorry, yeah, you reminded me of a joke I laboured to try and make work for ages. I'm not going to try again now, but it was D-horse related.
Is it as good as extremely inaccurate and incredibly close?
No, it was like a minor sound of the summer earlier this summer, the song Ciao Adios. No. I was trying to make a Ciao at D-horse joke, Anyway, you don't want to go through my Twitter drafts folder for like places that I've spent train journeys trying to make them big favs. Not going to happen. Never going to happen.
I can't believe my Hamlet as a game critic tweet was not more popular. It's almost as if that's somehow niche.
A new section of the podcast. Jokes we thought should have done better. You animals.
Our Twitter drafts folder.
Yeah, exactly. God, mine's a fucking disaster. If you think I tweet some garbage, you should see. I don't.
Most of mine are just like, this is too snarky, I can't say this.
Finally, Fanatical from Discord writes, "Hello, podders. I've been playing games since forever, but to this day I struggle with a very important aspect of them, naming characters. Over the years, I've come up with a naming scheme inspired by Mass Effect, naming your characters after astronauts. My Mass Effect characters have been called, for example, Valentina from Tereshkova, Neil from Armstrong, Sunita from Williams, and Kalpana from Chawla. I've carried this naming scheme into fantasy games as well by mixing up different astronaut names to generate non-normal names like Bone Airpod." That's spelled Bohnnaephard. And you try and fucking pronounce that. How do you deal with the paralysis of naming your character that you might spend hundreds of hours with? Thanks for the podding. Fana on Discord.
I had this problem with Diablo, because that was, I think, one of the earliest games where I had a lot of alternate characters. And, my first one was called Pentadact, and then after that it was a struggle to come up with them. And I think I had a globe near my desk, and I ended up just using place names. So like, I have a Diablo character called Cuba, and I would just pick various country names, I think. Can't remember any others now. But yeah, place names work pretty well for like, I particularly wanted like gender neutral ones. I didn't want it,
I agree.
to be too traditional. Now, of course, I will just use heat signature names forever because, heat signature it randomly combines 4 names and surnames, and each list is about 170 long. And it turns out that just is effectively infinite names. I've been looking at them for many, many years, and you never see the same one twice, and it keeps producing ones that I love and are cool.
What was your first one called, Tom?
Simple Crisis.
Simple Crisis. My name's Simple Crisis. I'm sure nothing bad will happen to me in the course of this adventure. Yeah, Simple Crisis got I was playing earlier today, and I didn't realise that the timer when you're on a ship is the ship going back to the fucking base of the faction they're from. Mm-hmm. So Simple Crisis got kidnapped because he just like stayed on the ship until it went back to their home base. And but of course you get an opportunity to rescue them with the next life of the base.
Yeah, did you get another Crisis character?
No, I didn't get another Crisis. It was someone else.
Escalating Crisis.
Yeah. Because there's a chance, when a character gets captured, that at the character select screen, someone will be there because their personal mission is to rescue that person. And there's a chance it'll be a relative, or if it's not, it might be a friend. And so if it's a relative, they have the same surname. So.
No, it wasn't a Crisis, but it was someone else, and I ballsed up their playthrough. And
it would be so great if their name was Advanced Crisis. Well, that was a simple crisis. It's going to take a much bigger crisis to get them out of this.
I need 200 gold to pay off this
Advanced Crisis gets captured, and then they get rescued by their friend. Oh shit!
Oh come on!
Yeah, that should totally be a name that's possible. Place names are good. I like place names because I too like to avoid having names for characters that are obviously gendered. Particularly because I don't tend to go with like real names or like, and when you make up fantasy names, whether you are writing stories or making up character names, there's a tendency to like gender them using traditional, like, sort of, I don't know, English, for example, or like, ways of gendering names. So like everything becomes like nonsense syllable if it's a lady's name, or like nonsense syllable on if it's a male name. And simply reversing them can make more interesting results. Like I try to do this when I'm pen and paper GMing as well, because I've come up with lists of names just in case a player asks me like, what's that guy's name? And you're like, oh shit. Jagerod. Actually, I just realized Jagerod is the name of a Star Wars character. So that literally,
that's how it happened.
Well, actually, you joke. That is how a lot of Star Wars characters get named. Someone's like, George, we're making toys with these background characters. What's that guy called? Hammer Guy. And then,
Slipshot.
He's one of the Jizz Whalers.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, no, Hammerhead is in the same room as the Jizz Whalers.
What a sentence.
Yeah. And, so, you have to have a list, and sometimes it's helpful if any of them even sound a little bit, like that, the masculine or feminine, to flip them, reverse them, flip or reverse it. They're both viable options. Like I did this when I do character creation now. A lot of the time, if players don't uncomfortable coming up with their own names, I'll come up with names for them that are neutral in that way and let them decide whether that's a first name, a surname, a title, or whatever. And then that's a kind of a nice way of doing it, because then people can decide how they want to do it. But yeah, I think about it a lot, because I think it adds a lot to a character if you don't necessarily immediately if the name doesn't just sound generic. Like, so many fantasy things wander into that completely blindly.
For City of Heroes, it was important to me that every character be a pun of some kind. No, that's completely untrue. I'm just doing a mental catalogue of all my City of Heroes characters, and not that many of them were puns. The Citrus Punch.
That's good.
And I wrote something, didn't get used, but I was sort of like, there was some kind of writing thing. It might have been, I don't know. I was trying to write some kind of City of Heroes fiction thing, and one of the characters in that was a Civil War buff who was about buffing his friends, but he also knew a lot about the Civil War. And then my villain was Whatever Man, and he was a pirate, zombie, scientist, demon. I just used the character creator to add as many different conflicting elements as possible. And the idea is he was a mad scientist who just everything fell into his combiner chamber at the same time. And then he just became this vague villain where he doesn't really have a theme. And my first hero was the Defenestrator. He just throws people through windows. Not really a pun. That's just what that word means.
That was every game you'd subsequently make. So
Yep. It was in there early.
So on this topic, I had a weird revelation. I did actually write about for PC Gamer next month, so I'll be in that. But so to briefly tell a story though, I mentioned when we were talking about West of Loathing that I just off the top of my head named my character Christmas Dickett because that made me laugh. Because I was like, Christmas Dickett, that sounds funny. I went back to Kingdom of Loathing, which I'd forgotten I even had an account for. Really, was surprised when Google autocomplete the login details for me.
Wow.
Even more surprised to then log in and discover that my character was called Dick Thunder, Disco Bandit. I was like, how did I make myself laugh in more or less exactly the same way at a 6 year remove from each other? It's sort of faintly comforting in a way, but yeah, nonetheless, apparently I haven't grown up. Yeah. That's my name. Did we talk about your naming scheme, Tom?
I rarely have any. I think I tend to name a lot of heroines Lyra after
His Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials, because Lyra's one of my favourite heroines.
Yeah, she could.
In any fiction, because she's resourceful, really smart, and she never turns down a call to action. She's just, you have to fucking go for it. And it doesn't matter what the odds are or anything. And as those are qualities I really enjoy playing in a hero. So, lot of Lyra's in my history of video game characters. But I tend to get really impatient in character. They ask you to make a name right before any exciting things happen in the game. So it's always the point where I want to rush the most through it. So I tend to just type a lot of old bollocks into the name bar, which is why my barbarian in Diablo 3, my very first one is called Leopold.
It's called Leopold.
Leopold.
I remember this. I remember this so well.
I was so excited and desperate to get into the game that the first thing that came into my head was leopard. Then I spelt it wrong.
Because we were all in the flat when we used to live together, hammering the login button, launch night of Diablo 3.
Yeah.
And we all burst into the game, and you burst into the game as Leopold.
And why did I even want to name him Leopard? It's so weird. I think I was just reading a lot about leopards at the time.
I seem to remember Craig Pearson's username for years was Evil Kenville, because it was supposed to be Evil Knievel, but he spelled it wrong once.
That's how it happens.
Forget it. Forget it, Jake. It's evil Kentown.
Leopold is like, I spent hundreds of hours with that character. And luckily you don't see his name come up very often in Diablo 3, but yeah.
Yeah, a name I use a lot for in games generally is for characters rather than like logins is Road, and only because it applies really well across. Like I only got that because of a character from a novel and Rhode Island being where Lovecraft is from, and I think I named an RPG character there when I was out there, and it's a good like set of syllables that seem to apply to any character you apply them to. So that's been and then variants, and that has been my go-to kind of RPG name for ages. The other thing I started doing recently with pen and paper is imagining the actor that would play the NPC and then remixing syllables from their name and hoping that my players don't figure that out.
He's Flint Eastwood.
Yeah. Good. That is all of the questions and grudge we've got time for this week. If you'd like to send us a question for a future episode of the podcast, you can do so by emailing us at questions@crateandcrowbar.com. You can also tweet us at crateandcrowbar. Check out the YouTube channel at youtube.com/crateandcrowbar, or hang out with our community on Discord at crateandcrowbar.com. Scroll up. Discord link. .click. You can also, if you wish, support us on Patreon. The podcast is very kindly supported by our Patreon backers, as are our side projects like Miniatures Monthly and the Bloodborne playthrough, which will be returning very soon, we promise. If you would like to follow us as individuals, you can do so on twitter.com. I'm on twitter.com/C Thurston. That's CTHURSTEN. Tom Senior.
Tom Senior. I'm at PCG Ludo, which is LUDO.
And I am at Pentadact, PENTADACT.
Thanks for listening, everybody.